What's good, everybody? It's Bro Hums, and today, guys, I'm coming to you with a brand new video. But before we get into that, guys, please go ahead and leave a like on this video, guys. Let's try and get 20 likes on this video, and subscribe if you have not already, because we're trying to hit 10,000 subscribers by the end of the year. And finally, check out all the socials down below. You'll be able to find our Discord there as well, where I'm a lot more active, and comment what you guys want to see next, or anything you find in this video, because I'll try my best to respond to each and every comment. But enough of talking, guys. Let's get right into the video. Alright, guys, so now starting off with the video, it is going to be a tech choice slash side deck tier list, guys. Again, this is my opinion. If you guys have your own opinions, please let me know down below, guys. I'll try my best to kind of give my reasonings for them in this video, and of course, if you need more clarification, please let me know. But starting off with the first card on our list, it is going to be Book of Moon. Now, Book of Moon has places within the metagame specifically for Kashtira. The only downside with Book of Moon is that it kind of can only do one monster, so being able to go draw phase Book of Moon to Shangri-La is very good, because not only will it prevent the Shangri-La from special summoning from deck, it'll also stop our opponent from kind of zone locking us or turn off the zone lock. The issue with Book of Moon in itself, because it doesn't book the rest of the monsters on the field, it does kind of lose to a Rise Heart, or not really lose to a Rise Heart, but it doesn't answer a Rise Heart in the same way that other cards will as I've kind of progressed with the list. So I think putting Book of Moon at B right now, of course, I will change it as it goes on, like depending on where I put the other cards, but putting Book of Moon at B right now is good, only because it only answers one monster in particular. It is good because you can technically Book of Moon your own monsters to dodge cards like Infinite Impermanence and Effect Veiler, which we'll see play in the metagame, especially with Kashtira. But right now, I'll say I'll put Book of Moon at B. I think that it's a good card, but I feel like there are better choices for it, so I'll put Book of Moon at B. But now starting off with the second card, guys, it is going to be Alpha, the Master of Beasts. Now, again, I'm going to kind of, I don't really know where to put Alpha, just because if sort of those Kashtira and Sprite decks are consistently doing Ibli, of course Alpha is complete garbage, you can't summon this card. But against like regular game state where the board with like big monsters, like for example, let's say Sprite doesn't do it, let's just say Kashtira doesn't do it, let's say Sword Soul. So this card is a 3000 attack monster, you can special summon himself, and then you can bounce a card and then re-special summon himself, which isn't a hard once per turn. So being able to go special, bounce a card, and then special attack, or special attack kind of bait the negate against the Baron or something, and then bounce card is very good. The only thing is with Ibli in format, and we know it's going to be in format either main deck or side deck, Alpha is a little weird. Putting Alpha as a C tier card, in my opinion, I feel like that's the best where he fits, just because he doesn't have a complete spot in the meta. But if you guys wanted to kind of try him out and play him, I can definitely see him. Of course, in decks like Tri Brigade, Bird, stuff like that, he's a lot better because he can bounce the Bird cards as well, not just himself. But again, I think putting Alpha at C is good, because again, I don't think it's better than Book of Moon, and I don't think it's a little worse. I think it's a lot worse than Book of Moon, so I'll put it at C right now. It's just a card that I feel like people should keep an eye out, depending on what happens with the whole Ibli aspect, but for sure, that's where I put Alpha for now. And of course, guys, moving on, the next card is going to be the Bystials. Now, again, the Bystials have fallen out of favor and meta because the hit to tier elements. It's not that good of a deck or card, sorry, anymore, especially with kind of the branded decks as well. Branded are cutting down the Bystials also, just because you're not going to be using it. Now, there is a benefit to playing the Bystials where you can Bystial your opponent's Ibli, prevent the Ibli from sort of summoning onto the board. But do you really want to be doing that? Especially because there are cards like Tasking in the format, so if you sort of summon the Bystial, Bystial the Ibli, summon it, and then they go Tasking, they can do a lot of other nasty plays as well. So I don't know where, I think that putting Fenrir maybe in the C tier would be fine right now. I think it's a little better than Alpha, just because depending on what happens, like if Dragon Link becomes a good deck, Bystials will see a lot more play as well. Similar to like my point on Alpha, where Alpha is very dependent on the meta, where if big boards is a thing, then Alpha is a lot better. And similar to the Bystials, so I think that Bystials should be C right now. And then moving on, guys, we will be talking about another card, which is going to be Forbidden Chalice. Now, again, Forbidden Chalice, guys, I feel like this card is very experimental in the metagame, just because there are other cards that kind of do the same thing as Forbidden Chalice. I feel like there's multiple monsters that you want to be stopping nowadays, which is why I was saying Book of Moon is a little different as well. Being able to stop multiple monsters is probably the better way to play it. Chalice is really nice because it can answer one monster. So again, you can Chalice your own Ibli, which is pretty good. You can Chalice any of your opponent's monsters as well. You can Chalice their Shangri-La during the standby phase. You can Chalice their Riser to negate the effects as well. So Chalice is a little better than these cards here. I feel like it's more versatile in what it does. So I feel like putting Chalice at C tier, actually, I'll put Chalice at the bottom of B tier. I feel like it's better than these cards because it's more versatile than these cards, where Chalice has applications almost everywhere, be it a token collector, be it when they used to scythe you. Of course, they're not going to be scything you anymore, but when they used to scythe you, you can still Chalice Mirror Jade, stuff like that as well. So being able to trade one for one is really nice. So that's why I feel like Chalice is pretty good. Very similar to Book of Moon in that regard. It might be a little better, but I feel like being able to Book of Moon Shangri-La, which is what anticipated one of the best decks in the format is going to be, is pretty good. And then moving on, guys, we will be talking about Change of Heart. Now, I think Change of Heart and Mind Control very similar. It can be an A tier card. It can also be a B tier card. Now I feel like putting Change of Heart at the first A tier card is okay. Just because, again, Change of Heart will trade for almost any negate in the game. It'll trade for blackouts. It'll trade for anything as well. Just because going Change of Heart target a monster is threatening. Issue with Change of Heart is it's not a quick place card, so they'll still be able to summon out their monsters off of it. A good thing about Change of Heart though is if you Change of Heart the Shangri-La, you'll be able to because it'll probably be standby phase. Shangri-La will activate its effect. You'll be able to Change of Heart, take their Shangri-La, and then throw in a Rise Heart on the field, because it says if Kashtira Shangri-La has activated its effect this turn. It doesn't say is if you control a Shangri-La and Shangri-La activates its effect. So you can basically take the Shangri-La, throw it on a Rise Heart, and then you'll essentially have you'll have 2 materials. When it goes, it'll be Chainlink 1, Chainlink 2. So your turn player will also go first. So you'll technically be able to get like a 3 material Rise Heart pretty easily, and you'll answer the board. Again, it is a very interesting card. I feel like putting it in B tier right now is pretty good. I feel like Change of Heart is, I'll put Change of Heart in between because there are ways to play it, but not really. But then moving on, guys, to I think what our first A tier card is going to be, it's going to be Chaos Hunter. Now, I feel like Chaos Hunter is very, very good, especially against decks like Kashtira, right? Because if they go special summon a monster, you can go Chaos Hunter, discard, summon it, and now your opponent can't really have a proper way of outing it, because Fenrir can respond to kind of banish the card, but it won't be able to resolve fully because you won't be able to banish cards. It turns off a Rise Heart banishes cost, or Rise Heart banishes cost. It turns off other cards as well, like Rise Heart. So if they hard summon Rise Heart, it turns it off, because Chaos Hunter has like the blanket effect where it's whole like Lancea versus D-Shifter, where like cards can no longer be banished this turn even though it's already been applying. So Chaos Hunter is a very good card in that regard as well. Sprite also kind of struggles with it, or Runic Sprite in a sense, because the Runic cards cannot activate under Chaos Hunter because they're mandatory banish from top of the deck. So if they go Runic effect, special summon the monster, they banish, you go cool. Chaos Hunter, discard, summon. So, or you kind of just wait for it and then drop it, and then the Runic cards cannot activate. So it's a very, very powerful card because it turns off the engine. They also can't smash as your card. So the only way they out is like double cross. I don't know if they have like a bounce or something, but so it's got to be double cross, maybe a sprint play or something very weird. But Chaos Hunter definitely has it, and they have to neg very hard to deal with this card. So I feel like putting Chaos Hunter there is very good. Then moving on to another card, guys, it is going to be Swords of Concealing Light. Now, of course, in the OCG, it sees a lot more play. Swords of Concealing Light is a little weird because yes, activating during your main phase kind of shuts all the plays down, but if a Rise Heart has 3 material, which a lot of people are doing, a Rise Heart is going to start banishing this card. So I will put Swords of Concealing Light at the bottom of C tier currently. Again, you can definitely play this card and experiment with these cards, but Swords of Concealing Light is only like very mid to me in my opinion, especially when they have cards like the 3 ofs or a Rise Heart getting the 3 banishes. So yeah, and then moving on to another card, guys, it is going to be Crossout Designator. Now, Crossout is a little weird because in mirror matches, Crossout is so crazy, right? In a tier 0 format, Crossout goes absolutely stupid, but because we're not in a mirror match and there are very other cards that you'd rather be side decking, Crossout's not really going to see play. I feel like it's absolutely garbage, to be honest. I don't think it's that good. Kashtira does play it because Kashtira can kind of like main deck the cards they lose to, and then you can go Crossout Designator, banish cards, or Crossout Designator, sort of banish one of the level 7s that you need, and then birth it back. Of course, you can't use the effect, but it's an extender. But Crossout is going to be complete garbage. You don't really need to be playing this card, in my opinion. It's very win more. And the other cards that you'd rather play are a little better. But yeah, moving on, guys, we will be talking about Cosmic Cyclone. Now, again, Cyclones is going to be, in my opinion, an S tier card. Why, you ask, is because Labyrinth is, of course, a rogue deck, if not bottom of tier 1. So it's a very powerful deck that you need to have Cyclone answers for. But it's also because if people are side decking Floodgate cards, if people are setting cards, if people are playing Runic Sprite, this card goes absolutely crazy. Now, understand this, right? If you Cosmic Cyclone the Runic Fountain, they cannot use any of their Fountain cards from the hand, right? It also turns off the Flunder Trap card as well. So I feel like playing Cosmic Cyclone is going to be very good. In my opinion as well. Of course, it doesn't have the best versatility, and it does lose out to certain other cards, but being able to Cosmic Cyclone field spells, being able to Cosmic Cyclone any other card as well, again, the main thing you will be Cosmic Cycloning 24/7 is going to be Runic Fountain. And again, they play 2 Runic Fountain. They probably aren't going to end with like any ways of protecting Runic Fountain as well, because technically they can't make Toad, or you know what I mean. So there's no more Elf, there's no more any of that as well. So being able to Cyclone cards is going to be very powerful. Actually, you know what, I'll probably move it. I'll move it to A tier. So I feel like A tier, these cards are all viable, so A tier is very good. And I'd rather put Chaos Hunter, yeah, I'd rather do it like this. So A tier is very good, S tier is like you must have, B tier is like like you can play it, you don't have to play it, but you can definitely play it. C tier is experimental, where like you don't know if it'll be work, and D is absolutely garbage. But moving on to the next card, guys, and I definitely think that this is going to be an S tier card, and mark my words, it will be an S tier card. It is going to be Dimensional Barrier. Now, of course, it's a little different than the other cards we have on this list, because these cards are very go second cards, whereas D Barrier is a go first card. But again, guys, think about the decks in the metagame right now. Sprite, which is XYZ summoning, Runic, which is fusion summoning. Again, you're probably not going to side it in against Sprite Runic, or pure Runic, sorry. You will put it in against Sprite anyways. Sword Soul, which is synchro summoning, Branded, which is fusion summoning, and Kashtira, which is XYZ summoning. So D Barrier will literally be applicable almost any time going first. It's also a good card because it's not really a floodgate, so it doesn't lose to backer removal too hard, and it has a lingering blanket effect. So if you're playing against Kashtira, they go summon, you wait for them to XYZ summon their first monster, and then you D Barrier. You don't shotgun D Barrier off rip, because the monsters are so strong that like you don't want them to end with like 3 2500 beaters that have like effects to rip. So you wait for them to overlay and then get punished off of that. So like for example, if they go special guy, and then make Shangri-La, then special summon a Rise Heart, you can flip D-Barrier, because Rise Heart will still be able to kind of work and use the effects, but Shangri-La will still be negated. So again, it's very good as well. You can also just hold D-Barrier until your turn, and then D-Barrier it, so you turn off the Rise Heart, the Shangri-La, stuff like that, because they do struggle with OTKing. They're definitely going to need to do some sort of Zeus play, and then like I said before, against Sword Soul, it shuts off the deck completely. Against Branded, again, same thing, Kashtira as well. So against the top 3 decks, this card is very applicable. Again, against Labyrinth, Flunder, Exosisters, that type of thing, it's not that good. Actually, against Exosisters is pretty good, but against Labyrinth and Flunder, those type decks, it's not that good. But if you're going first, there'll probably be better cards that you'd rather side. So putting D-Barrier as our first S tier card, I feel like is justified. Chaos Hunter might be able to weasel their way in. But yeah, right now I just put it. But moving on to another card, guys, it is going to be Dark Hole. Now this card has been seeing a lot of play, and a lot of people are talking about it, specifically because it can wipe the board completely. So not only does it out the Ibli, but it also outs the opponent's board as well. The only downside to Dark Hole is that a lot of decks will either go Almirage to protect the Ibli, or they'll be going B-Cop to protect the Ibli and then give it to you, or when you have it, sorry, they can B-Cop protect it. So that's why Dark Hole falls out of favor. I do think that it's a lot better than Concealing Light in these cards as well. So I think putting it at the bottom of B tier is pretty good. So again, it's a board wipe, it answers a lot of negates, it forces a lot of negates as well. Not a lot of decks are setting up Stone Trap negates anyways, or board protection for that matter. So Dark Hole is very good in that regard. So I feel like Dark Hole is going to be definitely a B card. So moving on to the next card, guys, it is going to be Dark Ruler no more. Now Dark Ruler is a weird card, right? Because if you're playing against a deck that has a lot of negates, Dark Ruler is very good. So against Sword Soul, Dark Ruler is very good, S tier if not A tier. Against Sprite, Dark Ruler is very good as well, because they're also summoning blanket effects. It turns off a lot of their annoying cards like Newman, Mannequin Cat, stuff like that. So Dark Ruler is very good. Against Drytron, it stops their negates also, so Dark Ruler is good. The only downside is against Kashtira, Dark Ruler is not good, and this is why Dark Ruler isn't good. So technically your zone is still locked, so if they don't open the complete nuts, they'll still be able to do a triple zone lock against you, right? Meaning that you only have 2 zones and an extra monster zone to play with. If you feel like your deck doesn't need the other 3 zones and it can out the Shangri-La with it, you'll be able to do it. And again, you deal with the Fenrirs that they summon, you deal with the Mind Hacker on board, you deal with the Ariser, so Dark Ruler no more is very good. But again, it does not save your zone. So as long as Shangri-La is face up on the field, it's a blanket effect. So even if you Dark Ruler, Shangri-La will still be able to lock your zone. So for that, I would definitely put it in A. If bigger boards, so like, the thing is, it's not that good against Libermancer and Mikanko either. So I would just put it at the bottom of A tier right now, where like this is a card that you should definitely play over the other cards. But for now, yeah, I would definitely say that is that. So again, the next card we're going to be talking about is going to be in the similar vein. It's going to be Forbidden Droplet. Now, the only thing with Droplet is against Kashtira, it's absolutely garbage, because this card sends to the graveyard as cost, and you cannot send under Kashtira a Riser, right? So it's a little weird. Not a lot of decks are setting up kind of bigger boards where you want to Droplet them. So I feel like Droplet, it's a little bad. It's definitely worse than Forbidden Chalice also, because you can't be using it. And in my opinion, it's probably worse than Concealing Light. Actually, Concealing Light, if your opponent pops it against other XYZ decks as well, it's not that good. Okay, I'll put Concealing Light in D tier and I'll move Droplet up, because against Sprite, Droplet does have applications. Again, Runic Sprite's a little different, but against Sprite, Droplet does have applications. So I'll probably put Droplet at the top of C tier. So again, has more applications than Alpha and the Bystials, but it's not better than these cards that I've listed. So I feel like C will definitely be a pretty good spot for it. So now moving on to another card, guys, and I think that this card is going to be very good. It's going to be main deck for sure. It's going to be Ash Blossom and and Joyous Spring. Now again, the reason why I say Ash is S tier is if Branded is anticipated to be the best deck, if not the second best deck, you definitely want to main deck cards to out some of the most represented decks, of course, right? So I feel like playing Ash Blossom and Joyous Spring is very good because not only does Ash answer literally the best card in the deck, which is Branded Fusion, shuts off their whole turn, unless they have ways of hard summoning their monsters like Fusion Deployment, getting Cartesia and stuff like that. I feel like other than that, being able to Ash Blossom, Branded Fusion, shutting your opponent's turn off completely is really good, especially because Branded tries to jump through a lot of hoops just to make sure the Branded Fusion resolves, which it's very hard for them to kind of negate it. Again, like I said before in my previous videos, if they do set up a Mercurial player by hard summoning their monsters with Fusion Deployment, with Fallen of Albaz, Fusion Summoning, Polymerization, stuff like that, then of course Mercurial can kind of do it, but it's a very niche situation. So I feel like being able to get Ash Blossom is good. S tier, I would say it's weird because against Kashtira it's very mid, especially if you Kashtira their Unicorn. It sucks. You really just want to Ash Blossom during your turn to stop the Shangri-La from summoning, or you want to be able to kind of Ash Blossom like a Fenrir effect, stuff like that. So I would feel like Ash is definitely A. It's S against Branded, it's A in general. But moving on to the next card, guys, within the same vein, we will be talking about Infinite Impermanence. Now, I didn't want to put too many hand traps on this list just because I feel like hand traps are very dependent on the matchup, what you play against your local scene, but Imperm is the most versatile of them all. Imperm, Kashtira Unicorn, DB Grinder said, I watched one of his videos, Imperm on Unicorn is the new Ash on Branded Fusion. So Imperm is a very good card. Imperm answers any card. Again, it's very similar to like these cards here, where it answers a lot of the cards and trades 1-for-1, especially against the negates, against Moyes, against Alubers, against Lubellians, against what's the card called, like Unicorn, any of that stuff as well. Imperming is very, very powerful, especially in the draw phase, especially in the standby phase. And Imperm paired with Droplet's not too bad, because if you go Imperm, target a card, and then chain Droplets, send the Imperm. Oh no, you actually can't do that with the Riser, I just realized. So yeah, just completely ignore what I said there. So Imperm is a B card. I would say maybe an A card. It's probably one of the better hand traps, so I would say it's definitely in the A tier. But yeah, then moving on to another card, guys, it is going to be Radiant Kaiju, or just Kaijus in general. I like Radiant in my opinion, so I feel like Radiant is a very good card, but it will be Radiant. Now, again, for Radiant, guys, what I would say is definitely it's bad, and it's very mid, and the reason for it is because there are better board wipes as well, especially because against Ibli, it's kind of sucks, you can't really use it. So I feel like Radiant trading 1-for-1 is kind of bad. It's definitely worse than these guys as well, so I would say the Kaijus in general are very, very bad. But then moving on to some more cards, guys, it is going to be Enemy Controller. Now I feel like Enemy Controller, guys, is going to be S tier. Now the reason why I say this, right, and I feel like S tier post side, maybe not main deck. The reason why I say this is because when they give you the Ibli, there's a lot of ways that they protect the Ibli, right? So for example, it's going to be B-Cop, it's going to be any other ways, like maybe an Almirage Protect or something like that, or no, they actually can't Almirage, never mind, I don't know why I was saying that, but like a B-Cop Protect, stuff like that, right? They'll summon their monster in defense position so you can't crash anyway. So being able to econ during the draw phase, tribute the Ibli, take their Shangri-La, take their Arise Chart, prevent a lot of things from happening is going to be very, very important. Another thing about Enemy Controller as well is Shangri-La targets the zones it's summoned to. Make sure you guys remember that. So if you econ take a monster and put it in that zone, you'll be able to use that zone. But if the monster in that zone leaves, Shangri-La will still lock that zone. So it's something to consider. But I feel like econ is really good post side, especially if you're going to be anticipating Ibli. Again, against Sprite, it's pretty good also because they're not doing the elf where you can't target the monster. So again, being able to econ take a monster, steal negate, stuff like that is very good. Force a board, which is really good. So I feel like econ definitely has a nice little place in the metagame. But moving on to some other worse cards, guys, I'm going to be putting Dinowrestler Pankratops into the D tier now. Again, Pankratops is kind of like Alpha, whereas actually if Alpha is here, I'll probably put Alpha, because Pankratops is special summon, quick effect, pop any card, but it is a 1 of. Alpha you can play 3 of. I'll just put Alpha here as well. You know what? I change my opinion. These screwed cards are literally the same thing. Alpha is just not a quick effect. Pankratops is. Can target any card, so I feel like doing that is pretty nice in that regard, guys. But moving on, guys, we will be talking about another card, which is probably one of the better cards in the format. It is going to be Book of Lunar Eclipse, and again, this is also going to be Book of Eclipse as well. For some reason, I don't have Book of Eclipse, but I'll just use Lunar Eclipse as Book of Eclipse. It'll be also the other books as well. So Lunar Eclipse is definitely better than Book Moon because it can target 2 cards. It does discard, which is a little but again, it does be able to almost discard target 2 cards, so it's better. And of course, I don't know why I don't have Book of Eclipse here, but if I did, I would put Book of Eclipse here. So again, guys, put Book of Eclipse as S tier. It is a must play card in the format. You definitely have to main deck the card if anything. I just for some reason don't have Book of Eclipse here, but I would definitely put Book of Eclipse up here. So Book of Lunar Eclipse will definitely be a B tier card. or actually I would say Book of Lunar Eclipse is a A tier card, and then Book of Eclipse will be an S tier card. I'll probably like throw it on here or edit it later on into the video, but I would definitely do that. But then guys, moving on, what we will be talking about is the next card, which is going to be Evenly Matched. Now Evenly Matched is very good, especially against kind of big decks that set up big boards as well. The only thing is with Evenly is that when they have Ibli, it's hard to use it, especially if they have ways of dealing with the Ibli from attacking or protecting it. It's hard to evenly, but against Labyrinth, against Runic Sprite, it's very good. I would say Evenly is going to be a B tier card, and I would say it's better than Forbidden Chalice. So I would say it's a middle of B tier card, but like you can definitely test it and sort of see what you want to do. And then moving on to another card, guys, it is going to be Kashtira Fenrir. Now I'm going to drop Kashtira Fenrir into the S tier. So being a board breaker is very important, especially because, like I said before, guys, if Shangri-La activates its effect, you can slap Arizer on any of the cards. So Change Fire gets a lot better. You can Change Fire a monster. You can slap it on, Special Summon to Fenrir as well. Okay, guys, yeah, so I ended up putting Book of Eclipse. It started bothering me, so I decided to put it back onto the thing. It started to trip me out. But yeah, so like I said before, guys, Fenrir is a very good card. Basically, off of what he does is specifically Special Summon, enter battle phase, attack, react to a monster effect. He's very good, especially if you do end up playing the Arizer with the Change Fire. So again, a lot of these side deck cards sort of get good when you start playing more of them in conjunction with each other. So playing Fenrir, I definitely say actually, yeah, I'll put Fenrir in either the S tier or the A tier. Being able to bait negates, being a big monster, a free special summon, being able to kind of get himself as well is very good. So I feel like putting Fenrir in the S tier, if not the A tier, is probably the right play. But like I said before, guys, for the books, just a quick refresher, I didn't have Book of Eclipse in before. Book of Moon will be a B, Book of Lunar Eclipse will be an A, and then Book of Eclipse, of course, will be a S. And again, Ash Blossom does counteract Book of Eclipse, so main decking it is very nice. But moving on, guys, we will be talking about the Kurikara card. Now the Kurikara card is a little weird because she is a board wipe in a sense where, like, once they've activated all their effects, and it's really good because Shangri-La will always use the effect during the standby phase. A Rise Heart has a mandatory effect to attach. Depending on what Shangri-La summons as well, you'll probably have sort of a forced effect off of that as well. And then depending on what happens, also if they do end with the Mind Hacker, they have it. If not, you can tribute all their monsters. Summon Kurikara, and Kurikara is very good. It is an activated effect, so it's a little weird, but I feel like Kurikara is definitely good against specific decks, being able to sort of force negates as well. I would say Kurikara would be the end of B tier, and just because there are a little better cards in my opinion that I feel like will be able to fit the task a lot better. So speaking of those cards, guys, that will be able to fit the task a lot better, we will be talking about Lava Golem. Now I think Lava Golem, in my opinion, is going to be an S tier card. Lava Golem is a card that not a lot of decks can either main or play, but Lava Golem always has plays around a lot of annoying cards, a lot of tricky cards, a lot of sticky cards, because some people can play around Sphere mode, but not always Lava Golem. For example, I'll say Sword Soul. Sword Soul can do double synchros, they can do triple synchros, but what they try to do is double synchros, if anything, and Lava Golem definitely answers that. It's a board breaker, being able to special summon it, especially decks like Runic Sprite can play this card, Pure Runic can play this card as well, Kashtira can definitely play this card, being able to answer the mirror match. Again, it completely removes the monster again if they don't have Ibli, which is a little weird, but in general, I feel like Lava Golem is a very good card to have. And then in the same vein as Lava Golem, I'll say Sphere mode, but I would say Sphere mode is a little worse than Lava Golem, specifically because you have to tribute 3 monsters, whereas Lava Golem is only 2 monsters. So sometimes your opponent just doesn't end with 3 monsters. A lot of the times they'll just end with 1 or 2 monsters. So Lava Golem is a lot better in that regard. And then Sphere mode can answer a lot of the bigger decks as well. And then moving on to another card, guys, it is going to be Artifact Lancea. Lancea is a very powerful card as well. Being able to just Lancea during your opponent's standby phase is super strong because it literally shuts them off completely. They cannot use Shangri-La, they cannot use a Rise Heart, they cannot use any of their other cards as well. So Lancea is very, very powerful in that regard because it turns off a lot of their extenders, a lot of their plays, because Lancea, they can't use Kashtira Element, they can't use Scareclaw, they cannot use Rise Heart's effect on board to banish, which is another extender because it banishes a big bang as well. Sometimes people, what they do is they wait and then they Lancea. Other times you can standby phase it. I think standby phasing Lancea is probably the best way to do it, as well, the best way to play. And then moving on to some other cards, guys, it is going to be Nibiru. Now Nibiru is the flavor of the format. Yeah, guys, so like I was saying, Nibiru is the flavor of the format. I had to move my camera just because I realized that I was going to start filling up here a lot more, so I had to move my camera just to make it look better. But yeah, so Nibiru is going to be the flavor of the format. A lot of people are going to be main decking Nibiru, if not siding it. I feel like putting it in S tier is justified, and I feel like putting it here, we'll move enemy controller a little further back right here. Don't put Lancea over here. We'll put sphere mode here. Yeah, we'll put sphere mode right here. Okay, yeah, so that makes more sense. So Nibiru, I feel like, is going to be one of the best decks to, best cards. Wow, I can't even English. One of the best cards to play in this current format. Again, a lot of main decks will be playing this card. A lot of side decks will have this card for sure. So Nibiru is going to be an S tier card in and of itself. I think the only deck that can technically play around it a little smoother is going to be Branded, because like they can just use all their fusion summons, and they really only fusion summon like a specific amount of times. They can technically do like 5 summons or 4 summons, and then summon the 5th one during the end phase. So it stops Nibiru from actually playing the game. So it's very good. Nibiru is going to be a main deck card for sure. Again, you just take it out against Labyrinth and stuff like that, but Nibiru is definitely going to see play. Now moving on, guys, will be talking about Raigeki. Now again, Raigeki is very similar to Dark Hole. The thing is, Raigeki destroys all monsters your opponent controls, so it doesn't really out it bleed like Dark Hole does. So I'll just put Raigeki over here, just call it a day. And then Super Poly, guys, it's a little weird, because if tier was in the format, I would say like Super Poly is an A or an S, because you have tier, you have Branded as well to deal with. But against decks like Kashtira, against decks like Sword Soul, Super Poly kind of isn't that good. So putting in like C tier would make a little more sense. I feel like kind of figuring out where you want to play Super Poly and what decks lose to Super Poly is a lot better, especially because against a lot of control decks it's not that good. So putting Super Poly in the C tier would be good. Lightning Storm, I feel like it follows within the same thing with Raigeki and Dark Hole. Another thing with Lightning Storm as well is that you can't use it with a bleed, right? That's the only issue. But being able to have the versatility of dealing with monster negates and dealing with spell trap cards is pretty important. But again, there are ways to play around Lightning Storm, but I feel like Lightning Storm in itself is pretty good. I feel like Lightning Storm is better than Evenly, just because you don't have to give up your battle phase. And if you're in a similar situation to be able to use Evenly, you can definitely use Lightning Storm. And then being able to pop either spell trap cards or monsters is better than Evenly. So I feel like Evenly goes about here. Yeah, so I would say Evenly is about here. Cool. Then moving on to the final cards, guys, we will be talking about Triple Tactics Thrusting. Now, I think Thrusting is a very good card. Now, again, like I said before, Thrusting works a lot better depending on what you side. So, for example, a lot of people will have big boards, big card effects to activate, big monster effects to activate. So being able to go Thrusting, and then Thrusting at a D-Barrier, Thrusting at a Dark Ruler, Thrusting at a Change of Heart, a Lightning Storm, Raigeki, Dark Hole, any of these cards will be able to be a lot better. So Thrusting is only as good as the cards you play. So if you played Power 1 of like Terraforming, Instant Fusion, Dark Ruler, No Mores, stuff like that, it's going to be very good, like Foolish Burials, 1-for-1s. So I feel like Thrusting is very good in that regard as well. And then again, guys, the final card I'm going to be talking about is Triple Tactics Talents. Now again, I would say Talents is an S tier to an A tier card, just because it's almost always live, especially against big boards. But like I said before, each and every single one of these cards is going to be very good in conjunction with another card. So I feel like moving Thrusting will to the top of A tier will be a little better, because it relies on the other cards that you play. It's only as good as the other cards you play, but it does allow you to play other cards. But again, guys, I'll do a quick breakdown on my tier list right now. So again, like I said before, S tiers will be must haves, A tiers will be side/main, and then B tier will be can play, and then C tiers will be very mid, and then D tiers will be bad. So there you go. That's it for my tier list, guys. If you guys like the video, please go ahead and leave a like. Let me know what you guys think, your opinions on the tier list as well, guys. I'd love to hear your opinions, see where you guys would put the tier list as well, guys. But my name's Hamza. Like, comment, subscribe. So guys, that was it for the video. If you guys liked the video, please go ahead and leave a like on this video. Again, if you made it to the end of the video and you are not yet subscribed, go ahead and leave a subscription, because again, guys, we're trying to hit 10,000 subscribers by the end of the year. And of course, guys, my name's Hamza, and like I always say, keep on shining, never go on your dreams. Peace.